My husband's secretary had discreetly slipped a note into my bag and whispered, "Rebecca, this is about your husband. Read it when you get home. It's important." I was speechless, unable to say a word, and hurried home. But when I finally read the note, my face went pale with horror. I was standing in the lobby of Bernard's office building, feeling my fingers tremble as they clutched my bag strap. Megan, his secretary, had just slipped a folded piece of paper into my bag with a subtle movement, whispering words that made my throat go dry. Her face was pale, eyes a mix of fear and determination. She quickly turned away and rushed back to the elevators, leaving me frozen in the middle of the marble lobby. My legs felt glued to the polished floor. People in business suits hustled past, some talking on phones, others rushing to meetings, while I stood like a statue, trying to process what had just happened. Megan had worked with Bernard for 4 years. Always polite, efficient, and distant. We exchanged pleasantries at corporate events, but we were never close. And now she had taken such a step. Forcing myself to move, I left the building and stepped into the street. The October wind hit my face, cold enough to make me shiver. I raised my hand, hailed a cab, and gave the address. All the way home, I felt the note burning inside my bag. I wanted to pull it out immediately, but Megan's words echoed in my head. At home. Only at home. Our apartment greeted me with silence. Bernard, as usual, was late from work. Lately, this had become normal. Meetings, negotiations, urgent projects. I had gotten used to eating dinner alone, falling asleep alone, waking up after he had already left. 23 years of marriage had taught me not to ask unnecessary questions. A successful man had many responsibilities, I told myself. Bernard ran a major construction company, and his schedule was minute by minute. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and drank it in one gulp. My hands were still shaking. Pulling the note from my bag, I sat at the table, staring at the folded piece of paper. Plain white, torn from a notebook. Nothing special. But why did my heart race as if I were standing on the edge of a cliff? I unfolded the note and saw Megan's neat handwriting. A few lines in blue ink. I started reading, and with each word, the blood drained from my face. "Rebecca, I'm sorry to interfere, but my conscience can no longer stay silent. Your husband is living a double life. He has another family in the suburbs, a wife, Barbara, and 2 children, a boy, 8, and a girl, 5. He spends every weekend with them under the pretense of business trips. Yesterday, I accidentally saw documents for a house in her name, paid from your joint company account. Be careful. He's planning something serious. There's a folder in his office labeled divorce, containing financial documents. Megan." The note slipped from my hands and slowly floated to the floor. My ears buzzed, circles swam before my eyes. Another family. Children. 8 and 5. That means the older child is 8. 8 years ago, Bernard and I were celebrating our 15th wedding anniversary. We went to Greece, reliving our youth, promising each other eternal love. And he already know, it's impossible. There must be some explanation. I picked up the note and read it again. And again. The words didn't change. Barbara. 2 children. A house in the suburbs. I remembered all those weekends when Bernard was away, construction exhibitions, meetings with investors, site inspections. There was always a respectable reason. And I believed him. Blindly, every word. Shaking, I went to the living room and sank onto the couch. Our wedding portrait looked down at me from the wall. Young, happy, full of hope. Bernard was 28, I was 25. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party. Charming, confident, ambitious. Just starting his business, renting a small office on the outskirts. I worked as an accountant at a small firm and often helped him with documents in the evenings. How he courted me. Flowers every day, romantic candlelit dinners, moonlit walks. He said I was his muse, his inspiration, that he wouldn't have succeeded without me. We married a year after meeting. A modest wedding, only close family and friends. Money was tight, but we were happy. At least, I thought we were. The early years were hard. Bernard worked 16-hour days building his business. I supported him as best I could, cooking his favorite meals, making our rented one-bedroom apartment cozy, never complaining when he disappeared into work. We dreamed of children, but I lost 2 pregnancies early. Doctors said it was stress, overwork. Bernard comforted me, saying everything would be fine, we just needed to wait until the business stabilized. Then things picked up. First a big contract, then a second, a third. We moved to this apartment in the city center. Bernard bought a luxury car, started wearing designer suits. I rejoiced in his success, proud of him. When I got pregnant again, doctors ordered strict bed rest. I spent 3 months lying down, afraid to move. Bernard hired a nanny, surrounded me with care. But in the 5th month, there was bleeding. The baby, a boy, could not be saved. After that, something inside me broke. And apparently, between us two. Bernard became distant. More time at work, fewer conversations beyond everyday matters. I attributed it to his busy schedule, the stress of a growing business. I suggested vacations together, but he always found reasons to refuse. The last time we went on holiday together was 5 years ago. 5 years. His daughter is 5. Coincidence? I stood and went to Bernard's office. Normally, I didn't enter, it was his private space. But now all rules were broken. The desk was immaculate. Laptop closed, documents neatly stacked in trays. I opened the top drawer with pens, paper clips, business cards. Second drawer, contracts, invoices, delivery notes. The third drawer was locked. There had to be a key somewhere. I checked all the obvious places, under the desk lamp, and the pen organizer, behind a photo frame. The photo. Bernard standing in front of a building under construction, one of his first projects. He was so proud of it. I picked up the frame and felt the back panel loose. Opening it, I found a small key taped inside. The drawer opened with a quiet click. Inside were several folders. I took the first, bank statements. The sums going through the accounts made me whistle. I knew Bernard's business was successful, but I had no idea of the scale. The second folder, property documents. Our apartment, his office, warehouses. And one more. A house in Maple Grove. A 2-story, 3,000 square foot cottage. Owner, Barbara Fischler. Fischler. I knew that name. Barbara worked as a designer at Bernard's company. Young, beautiful, talented. I had met her a few times at corporate events. Bernard had always introduced her as a valuable employee, saying her projects had helped them win several important tenders. She had seemed pleasant, a little shy. I never could have imagined. The next folder. Labeled divorce, the one Megan had mentioned. I opened it with a pounding heart. A list of assets, divided into 2 columns. One showing what Bernard planned to leave me, our apartment and a small sum in the account. The other column held everything else, the business, commercial properties, the suburban house we had bought 3 years ago for vacations. I had thought it was our home. Apparently, it was registered only under Bernard's name. The folder also contained a draft divorce petition. The reason for dissolution, the wife's inability to have children, the wife's fault. Those words cut like a knife. He was blaming me for not having children, even though he knew everything I had endured, how many tears I had shed, how much I had dreamed of a child. I heard the sound of the key in the front door lock. Bernard was home. Quickly folding the documents back into the folder, I placed it in the drawer and locked it. I slipped the key into my pocket, slipped out of the office, and went to the bedroom, lying on the bed as if asleep. "Rebecca, are you home?" Bernard's voice sounded as usual. Calm, even, without a trace of agitation. How could he be so cold, living a double life? I didn't answer, keeping my breathing steady. I heard his footsteps in the hallway, then the sound of running water in the bathroom. An ordinary evening of an ordinary day. Only now I knew that nothing in our life had been ordinary for many years. Bernard came into the bedroom. I felt the mattress give under his weight. He lay on his side of the bed and turned off the light. Within minutes, his breathing evened out. Sleeping. How could he sleep peacefully, knowing what he was doing? I lay in the darkness, eyes open, replaying everything I had learned. 8 years of deceit. 8 years of a double life. All those business trips, late nights at work, canceled plans. All lies. And Barbara? How could she? She knew Bernard was married. Or did he tell her we were divorcing? Or did she simply not care? And the children. He has children. A son and a daughter. What I had dreamed of my whole life, he had with another woman. Raising them, loving them, caring for them. And he told me he wasn't ready for fatherhood, that the business took all his energy. Every lie now resurfaced in my memory, forming a monstrous picture of betrayal. I woke up in the morning to the sound of the alarm. Bernard was already up. I could hear him getting dressed. Pretending to still be asleep, I watched him through half-closed eyes. The same morning ritual. Shower, shave, perfectly pressed shirt, expensive suit. He came to my side of the bed, leaned over, and kissed my forehead. As always. As if nothing had changed. I'm going to work. I'll be late tonight, meeting with investors. Don't wait for dinner. I mumbled something indistinct, pretending to have just woken. He left, and a few minutes later, I heard the front door click shut. I jumped out of bed, ran to the window. Bernard got into his black BMW and drove off. To work, or to her? To his real family? I took a shower, got dressed, and decided to act. I couldn't sit idly by. I needed the full truth. I grabbed my phone and called my friend Lily. We had been friends since college, and I knew I could trust her. Lily, I need your help. Can you meet today? In an hour at our favorite cafe. Deal. Lily was already waiting at a table in the corner when I arrived. Seeing my face, she looked concerned. Rebecca, what happened? You look as pale as a sheet. I sat across from her, lowering my voice, and told her everything, Megan's note, the documents in Bernard's office, the other family. Lily listened silently, and with every word, her expression grew darker. That bastard, she finally exhaled. Sorry for the language, but you can't say it any other way. 8 years of lying to you. And the children, God, Rebecca, how are you holding up? I don't know, I admitted honestly. I guess I haven't fully processed it yet. It all feels like a nightmare. What are you going to do? First, I need to make sure it's true. See it with my own eyes. Megan wrote that he spends weekends with them. Tomorrow is Saturday. Bernard said he's going to a construction exhibition in a nearby city. I want to follow him. Lily nodded. I'll go with you. Don't go alone, it'll be too hard. And it's safer together. I squeezed her hand gratefully. Her support was more important now than ever. The rest of the day passed in a strange daze. I went through the motions of household chores, prepared dinner that Bernard wouldn't eat. He called around 8 in the evening, saying he'd be late. His voice sounded normal, even cheerful. Apparently, the meeting went well. Or he was just a good actor. He returned after midnight. I lay in bed, pretending to be asleep. He quietly undressed and lay down next to me. I smelled feminine perfume on him. A subtle, sweet scent. Not mine. I clenched my teeth to keep from giving myself away. Endure it, Rebecca. Tomorrow you'll know the whole truth. Saturday morning was overcast. Bernard got up early, as he usually did on weekends when he left for his so-called events. I heard him getting ready, humming to himself. He was in a great mood. Of course, he was going to his beloved family. I'm leaving, dear, he said, peeking into the bedroom. I'll be back tomorrow evening. All right, I mumbled sleepily. Good luck at the exhibition. He smiled. Or maybe it was just my imagination. 15 minutes after he left, I jumped up, dressed quickly, and called Lily. He's gone. I'm following him. Wait for me at the city exit, at the gas station. I'm already on my way. I got into my car and drove to the agreed meeting spot. From a distance, I spotted Bernard's BMW. He was heading in the opposite direction of the exhibition. Keeping my distance, I followed him. At the gas station, Lily was already waiting. She got into my car, and we continued the surveillance together. Bernard drove confidently, clearly knowing the route. 40 minutes later, he turned off the main highway and entered Maple Grove. My heart pounded wildly. The same suburb from the documents. We kept our distance, watching as the BMW turned toward a large two-story house behind a tall fence. The gates opened automatically, and Bernard drove into the yard. I stopped the car around the corner, from where the house was visible. The front door opened, and a woman appeared on the doorstep. Barbara. I recognized her immediately. Long dark hair, slender figure, beautiful face. She looked around 35. 10 years younger than me. She smiled, arms wide. Bernard hugged her, kissed her. Not a quick, routine kiss, but a long, passionate one. Then the children ran out of the house. A boy and a girl. The boy was Bernard's spitting image. The same facial features, the same nose, the same stubborn chin. The girl resembled her mother more, but her eyes were her father's, brown with golden flecks. Daddy. Daddy's home, they shouted, clinging to Bernard. He lifted the girl in his arms, ruffled the boy's hair. His face radiated tenderness and love the likes of which I had never seen. Even in our best times, he had never looked at me like that. A wave of nausea rose in my throat. Lily squeezed my hand. Let's go, she whispered. You've seen enough. But I couldn't tear my eyes away from the idyllic scene. A happy family at the doorstep of a beautiful house. Loving parents, joyful children. Everything I had dreamed of. Everything that should have been mine. Bernard said something, and everyone laughed. Then they went inside, the door closed. The show was over. I started the car and turned around. The whole way back, I remained silent. Lily didn't speak either, understanding that I needed time to process what I had seen. Only when we returned to the city was I able to utter. He looked so happy. I've never seen him this happy with me. Rebecca, it's not your fault, Lily said firmly. He made his choice. A cowardly, despicable choice. Instead of divorcing you honestly, he deceived you for years. But why? If he loves her, if they have children, why didn't he divorce me? Maybe money? You said he was preparing divorce papers, dividing assets. But why drag it out for so many years? Lily thought for a moment. When did his business really take off? When did the big money appear? I calculated in my head. 3, maybe 4 years ago. Before that, things were going well, but the real breakthrough came when he got the government contract to build a school. Maybe he waited until he had enough assets to support both families. Or until he figured out how to divorce me and leave me with almost nothing. It made sense. Cynical, but logical. Bernard had always been calculating. Even our romance had started after he learned my father owned a small construction company. My father died a year after our wedding, and the company went under, but by then Bernard had already launched his own business. At home, I collapsed onto the couch, feeling completely drained. Lily made tea and forced me to drink. What now? She asked. I don't know. I need to think. I can't just pretend I don't know. But I also can't confront him yet he has a divorce plan leaving me with scraps. I need to be smarter. You need a good lawyer. I have a contact, she specializes in divorces. Very tough, men fear her. I nodded. Yes, a lawyer is necessary. But first, I need to gather more evidence. Photos, documents, witnesses. Megan took a risk by giving me the note. Maybe she knows more and will agree to help. That evening, I called Megan. I found her number in an old notebook with contacts from Bernard's company. Megan, this is Rebecca. Thank you for the note. I've checked everything, you were right. Silence on the other end. Then a quiet voice. I'm so sorry. I hesitated for a long time, wondering if I should tell you. Why did you decide to? Because I saw him discussing the divorce with a lawyer. How he was dividing the assets, leaving you scraps. It's unfair. You're a good person, you don't deserve this. Megan, I need your help. More detailed information, maybe copies of documents. It's dangerous. If Bernard finds out, I'll lose my job. I understand. I'm not asking you to take risks. But if there's a way. Silence again. Then. On Monday, he's going to the site all day. I can copy some files from his computer. I have the password, he gave it for work purposes. Let's meet Tuesday after work. Thank you, Megan. I owe you. No need to thank me. Just restoring justice. Sunday dragged on endlessly. Bernard called in the afternoon, saying the exhibition was running late and he would return late at night. Lies came easily to him. I wondered what he was telling Barbara about me. That I was tiresome, but a divorce would be too costly? Or that I was sick, crazy, and he couldn't leave me out of pity? He returned around 11 in the evening. Cheerful, satisfied, smelling of another home. He talked about the exhibition, new contacts, promising projects. I nodded, asked polite questions, while inside, rage boiled. I had to hold myself together. I couldn't reveal my knowledge too soon. On Monday, I went to work. Yes, I had a job too, a small accounting firm where I was the chief accountant. Bernard had always treated my work condescendingly, calling it a hobby. Why would the wife of a successful businessman need a job? But I insisted. I needed some independence. The day passed in a haze. I went through documents mechanically, signed reports, answered calls. Colleagues noticed something was off, but I brushed it off, blaming a headache. In the evening, Lily called, asking how I was holding up. She told me she had arranged a meeting with a lawyer for Wednesday. Good. The plan was beginning to take shape. Tuesday. The day to meet Megan. We agreed on a small cafe on the outskirts of the city, where no one could see us. I arrived first and took a corner table. Megan appeared 10 minutes later, looking around before sitting. I managed to copy the files, she said, taking out a flash drive. Here are the correspondence with the lawyer, financial documents, and she hesitated. What? Correspondence with Barbara. Personal. I took the flash drive, feeling it burn my palm. Is there something I need to know? Megan nodded. They plan to get married right after the divorce. And Barbara is pregnant. Third child. A punch to the gut. Pregnant. So Bernard's family is growing, thriving, while I am left with nothing. Thank you, Megan. You've helped me so much. Rebecca, be careful. Bernard can be ruthless when it comes to money. I've seen him destroy competitors, partners who betrayed him. He has no principles. I nodded. Yes, I was beginning to understand that I was living with a man I didn't know at all. At home, I inserted the flash drive into my laptop and began going through the files. The correspondence with the lawyer was particularly telling. Bernard had been methodically planning the divorce for over a year. Consulting on how to keep the maximum assets, how to prove the business was solely his achievement, that I had no claim. One paragraph hit me especially hard. My wife has no idea about my actual income. Officially, only part of the money goes through the company. The rest goes through offshore accounts and shell companies. In the divorce, she can only claim what she knows about, so he was even richer than I thought, hiding it deliberately while preparing for the divorce. The correspondence with Barbara was different. Tender, loving, full of plans for the future. They discussed names for the future child, where to spend their honeymoon, which school to choose for the eldest son. Ordinary family talk, something Bernard and I hadn't had for years. One message from Barbara stood out. "Darling, when will you finally divorce her? The kids find it hard that Daddy is only around on weekends. And it's hard for me to share you with her. I know you say nothing is going on between you, but I still get jealous." Bernard's reply: "Hold on a little longer, darling. Just need to settle the final formalities. By the end of the year, we'll be officially together. Rebecca means nothing to me, just a burden, hard to get rid of without losses." A burden. That's what I had become for my husband. A burden to be discarded with minimal loss. On Wednesday, I met with the lawyer Lily recommended. Abigail Marshall, a woman in her 50s, sharp-eyed and confident. After hearing my story and reviewing the flash drive documents, she said, "You're in a strong position. Infidelity, hidden income, moral damage. We can claim half of all assets, including hidden ones. And alimony, even though you have no children, after 23 years of marriage you're entitled to support." "I don't want his money," I said. "I want justice. Money is justice in this case. He used you, your patience, your support, to build his business. While you provided the base, he built an empire. You have every right to half." She was right. All these years, I had been a convenient front. A respectable wife for business meetings, a reliable home base, a free accountant in the early days of his business. Meanwhile, he lived another life. What should I do? For now, nothing. Continue living as usual. We need to gather all evidence, determine the real value of his assets. I'll involve a financial analyst to check offshore accounts and shell companies. When we're ready, we'll strike fast and precise, so he won't have time to hide the money. The plan was reasonable, but it was hard to keep up the act of a loving wife. Every evening, seeing Bernard, smiling, chatting about trivial things, lying in bed beside him. Knowing he had embraced another woman, kissed other children, and planned a future without me. A week passed. Abigail was working tirelessly, gathering information. The financial analyst found 3 offshore companies and 2 Swiss bank accounts. Bernard's assets turned out to be 4 times larger than I had imagined. On Friday evening, Bernard said he would be going to another exhibition on Saturday. I nodded, as usual. But this time, I wasn't planning to stay home. "I'm going to visit my mother for the weekend," I said. "Haven't seen her in a while." Bernard brightened. Of course, he wouldn't have to come up with excuses. "Great idea. Say hello to her for me." My mother lived 2 hours outside the city. I did go to see her, but only briefly. I spent Saturday with her, and on Sunday morning, I said I had to return for an urgent matter. Once back in the city, I drove straight to Maple Grove. I parked not far from Bernard and Barbara's house and waited. An hour later, Barbara came out with the children. She got into a white SUV and drove off. Bernard was left home alone. I waited another half hour, then approached the house and rang the doorbell. Bernard opened the door. Seeing me, he paled. "Rebecca? What are you doing here?" "I came to see your real life," I said calmly, walking past him into the house. The interior was tastefully decorated. Light tones, expensive furniture, children's drawings on the fridge, family photos on the walls. On the mantelpiece, a wedding photo, Bernard and Barbara in white. When had they gotten married? "That's not what you think," Bernard began. I laughed. "Really? And what is it then? Renting a house to play happy family on weekends?" He remained silent, staring at the floor. 8 years, Bernard. 8 years you deceived me. Why? Why didn't you just get a divorce? It's complicated. No, it's simple. You're a coward and a liar. You wanted it all. A respectable wife for appearances and a lover with children for your heart. Barbara isn't a lover, he snapped. She's my wife. Your wife is me. At least legally. Bernard went to the living room and sat on the couch. He looked tired, aged. I met Barbara 9 years ago. She came for an interview at my company. Young, talented, full of ideas. We started working together on a project, spending a lot of time together. And I realized I loved her. Truly loved her. The way I never loved you. His words cut, but I held myself back. Why didn't you divorce me then? Your father had just died. You were depressed after losing the baby. I couldn't leave you at that moment. I decided to wait until you recovered. Then Barbara became pregnant. I couldn't abandon her either. So I lived between two families. And then I got used to it. It was convenient for you? He nodded. To some extent. I had both of you. You gave stability, respectability. Your connections in business helped the company. And Barbara gave love, children, a real family. And you didn't see anything wrong with that? I did. But I didn't know how to get out without losses. Divorce would have meant splitting assets. I worked like a madman to provide for the children, give them the best education, the best life. I couldn't risk their future. And my future didn't matter to you? He looked at me. Something resembling regret flickered in his eyes. Rebecca, you're a strong woman. You have a job, friends. You'll manage. And Barbara? She needs me. The children need a father. I needed a husband too. An honest, loving husband. Not a liar who used me all these years. Bernard stood and went to the window. What do you want? Divorce? I'm ready. Let's just settle everything peacefully. I'll provide for you, give you a good sum. I want justice. Half of everything. Including your offshore accounts and Swiss bank accounts. He spun around sharply. How do you? I know. I have a good lawyer. And good sources of information. Bernard's face twisted in anger. It's Megan, isn't it? The secretary. I knew she couldn't be trusted. It doesn't matter who. What matters is that I know the truth. The whole truth. And if you don't agree to my terms, this truth will become public. Imagine what your business partners would say when they learn about bigamy, tax fraud, shell companies. You're blackmailing me? I'm protecting my interests. The way you've protected the interests of your real family all these years. At that moment, the front door slammed. Barbara entered the living room with the children. Seeing me, she froze. Bernard? Who is this? I stood up and turned to face her. I'm Rebecca. Bernard's wife. His legal wife. Barbara went pale. The children looked at me with curiosity. Daddy, who is this lady? Bernard looked flustered. All his confidence had evaporated. Kids, go to your room, Barbara said, her voice trembling. Once the children left, she turned to Bernard. You said you were divorced. That she agreed, that everything was settled. I was going to. Going to? For 8 years you were going to? Barbara sat on the couch, holding her head in her hands. Barbara, I began, I'm sorry you ended up in this situation. You are also a victim of his lies. But our positions are different. I am the legal wife, I have rights. You, I'm sorry, but legally, you are nothing. We have children, she exclaimed. Shared children. That doesn't give you rights to the property acquired during the marriage. In my marriage with Bernard. Barbara looked at Bernard, her eyes full of pain, disappointment, and anger. How could you? I waited for you all these years. Believed you would divorce her, that we would be together officially. I gave you children. And you? I'll sort everything out, Bernard muttered. Just give me time. There's no more time, I said. On Monday, my lawyer files for divorce with a claim to half of everything. Everything? Bernard asked, incredulous. including this house. This house is in my name, Barbara exclaimed. Bought with money from the family business. That will be easy to prove. Barbara jumped up. You wouldn't dare. I have children. You can't throw them out on the street. I'm not throwing anyone out. Your lover did that when he decided to live in two houses, deceiving both of us. Bernard stepped toward me, trying to take my hand. I pulled it back. Rebecca, please. Let's talk calmly. We can find a solution that works for everyone. The solution is simple. Divorce and division of property according to the law. Half of everything. That's fair after 23 years of marriage. But the children. Your children are your responsibility. You should have thought about them earlier when you started a second family without divorcing the first wife. I headed toward the door. At the threshold, I turned back. You have until Monday to decide. Either we divorce peacefully and you give me half without a scandal, or I make all this public. The choice is yours. After leaving the house, I got into my car and only then allowed myself to cry. The adrenaline faded, leaving only pain and emptiness. 23 years of life. Wasted. With a man who had never loved me. But through the tears came another feeling, relief. Finally, the truth was out. No more pretending everything was fine. No more excusing his absence, his coldness, his lies. I was free. Or would be very soon. That evening, Lily called, asking how the day had gone. I told her about the visit to Maple Grove. You did well, she said. You confronted him with the facts. Now he has nowhere to run. I'm afraid he'll try something. Hide money, transfer property. Abigail won't allow it. She's already filed to freeze the accounts. On Monday, the court will impose protective measures. He won't be able to move anything. That was reassuring. But anxiety lingered. Bernard was cornered, and a cornered animal is dangerous. On Sunday evening, he returned home. Dark, silent. He went straight to his office and locked the door. I heard him speaking on the phone, his voice tense, angry. Then silence. An hour later, he came out and sat across from me in the living room. I agreed to the divorce. But not half. 30%. A generous offer. 50%. Not a percent less. You don't understand. I have obligations. Loans, contracts. If I give half, the business will collapse. You should have thought of that earlier. Bernard jumped up and began pacing the room. You want to destroy me? Want revenge? I want what is legally mine. You used my support, my connections, my knowledge to build your business. I am entitled to half. What connections? What knowledge? You're just an accountant who kept your books for the first 5 years, introduced you to the bank director who gave the first loan, introduced you to the head of the administration at a charity event, after which you got your first government contract. Bernard fell silent. He remembered it all, but preferred to forget. And then, I continued, bigamy is a criminal offense. I could report you to the police. You wouldn't dare. The scandal would touch you too. I have nothing to lose. The reputation of a deceived wife evokes sympathy. But the reputation of a bigamist and a liar will destroy your business faster than losing half your assets. Bernard sat back down, burying his face in his hands. What do you want, Rebecca? Really, what do you want? I already said. Justice. And I want apologies. Honest, sincere apologies for all the years of lies. He lifted his head and looked at me. His eyes showed fatigue, but no remorse. I'm sorry. I never wanted it to turn out like this. It all started by accident and got out of control. 8 years is not an accident, Bernard. It's a choice. A daily choice in favor of lies. Yes, you're right. I chose them. Because I love them. I love Barbara, adore the children. With them, I feel alive. With you, he hesitated. Go on. With you, I felt duty. Obligation. You're a good woman, Rebecca. Decent, loyal, reliable. But I never loved you as a man should love a woman. I'm sorry. Strangely, his words didn't hurt. On the contrary, they brought relief. Finally, the truth. Bitter, painful, but the truth. Thank you for your honesty. Even if belated. We sat in silence. Two strangers, bound only by a formal stamp and a passport. I'll accept your terms, Bernard finally said. 50%. But give me 3 months to prepare. Reorganize the business, find new investors. 1 month. And during that time, you move out of this apartment. Where to? To your real family. Or rent somewhere. I don't care. Bernard nodded and stood up. I'll pack my things. He went to the bedroom. I stayed in the living room, staring at our wedding portrait on the wall. Young, beautiful, full of hope. If only they knew how it would end. An hour later, Bernard came out with a suitcase. I'll take the rest later. Give me notice in advance. He nodded and headed to the door. At the threshold, he turned. Rebecca, be happy. You deserve real love. Thank you. Good luck to your family. The door closed. I was alone in the large apartment. The silence was deafening. But in that silence, there was peace. For the first time in many years. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. The city shimmered with lights. Somewhere out there, people were loving, arguing, reconciling, lying, speaking the truth. Life went on, and my life would go on too. Without Bernard, without lies, without illusions. I'm 45. This isn't the end, it's the beginning. The beginning of a new chapter, one I will write myself. The phone rang. Lily. How are you? You know, surprisingly, I'm okay. Bernard is gone. He agreed to my terms. That's a victory, Rebecca. No, it's not victory. In such a situation, there are no winners. But it is justice. And closure of an old chapter. What will you do now? I paused. What would I do? So many opportunities, so many paths. For starters, I'll meet with my lawyer and make everything official. Then, maybe travel. I've always dreamed of seeing the Northern Lights. Great idea. Can I come with you? Of course. It'll be fun. We talked for a long time, making plans. And I felt my spirit lighten. Yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was disappointed. But I was alive. And a whole life lay ahead. And as for Megan's note, she saved me. From living a lie, from the humiliation of being a deceived wife, from wasting my time on someone who never loved me. Sometimes the truth hurts, but lies kill slowly and painfully. I choose the truth, no matter how bitter it may be. Monday came quietly. I woke up in the empty apartment, my first thought the surprise of silence. No sound of water in the bathroom, no smell of coffee from the kitchen, no morning news from the living room. Bernard had always turned on the TV in the morning, saying it helped him prepare for the workday. Now there was only silence, simultaneously frightening and liberating. I got up, showered, had breakfast. Everything as usual, but everything was different. Even the coffee tasted better, no need to make it for two or hear comments about it being too strong or too weak. I made it exactly how I liked it. By 9 a.m., I was at Abigail's office. She greeted me with a triumphant smile. I have great news. The court has frozen all of your husband's accounts. He won't be able to move a single penny until the property division is decided. What about his business? He needs funds for operations. He'll have to go to court and justify every expense. Everything will be monitored. This is standard procedure in divorces involving large assets. I nodded. Fair enough. Let him feel what it's like to have his life under control. I also received a full report from the financial analyst. Your husband's real assets are worth around $60 million. This includes property, business, accounts, and investments. 60 million. I couldn't believe it. All this time, I had thought we were just well off, but Bernard was a millionaire and had hidden it from me. Half would be 30 million. You're going to be a very wealthy woman. It's not about the money, I said. It's about justice, of course. But money gives freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of action. After everything you've been through, you deserve that freedom. She was right. Money alone wouldn't make me happy, but it would give me the chance to start a new life without worrying about finances. Your husband sent his lawyer with an offer. He's willing to give 40% if you waive claims to the business. No. 50% of everything. That's my final word. I'll pass it on. But prepare for a long fight. He will resist. After meeting with the lawyer, I went to work. I needed to inform my employer that I would be frequently absent in the coming weeks or months due to court hearings. My boss, Gregory, listened with sympathy. Take all the time you need. We'll wait for you. You're a valuable employee, and personal issues don't change that. I was grateful for his understanding. Work had been my refuge all these years, a place where I felt needed and competent. In the afternoon, Megan called. Rebecca, I wanted to warn you. Bernard is furious. He guessed it was me who gave you the information. He fired me this morning. Megan, I'm so sorry. It's because of me that you lost your job. Don't worry. I'd wanted to leave for a while, just didn't have the courage. Now I have a reason to start something new. And I don't regret it. You had the right to know the truth. If you need help finding a new job, let me know. I have connections. Thank you. I'll definitely take you up on that. After talking to Megan, my anger toward Bernard grew even stronger. Not only had he ruined my life, but he had punished the person who dared to speak the truth. That evening, I met Lily at our favorite restaurant. She ordered champagne. We're celebrating your freedom. I'm not free yet. This is just the beginning of the process. But you took the first step, the hardest one. You faced the truth and started taking action. We toasted to that. And to the future, whatever it might hold. You know, Lily said, I always felt something was off with Bernard. He was too perfect in public. Too proper. Real people aren't like that. Why didn't you tell me? You were so in love, so happy. At least in the beginning. She was right. I wouldn't have believed it. I would have defended Bernard, been angry at my friend for trying to shatter my idol. Sometimes we only accept the truth when we arrive at it ourselves. Tell me about Barbara, Lily asked. What's she like? I thought for a moment. Strange to talk about the woman who took your husband. Though did she take him? More likely, he left on his own. Or he was never truly with me. Beautiful. Young. Talented, from what Bernard said. And unhappy. She's also a victim of his lies. Thought he was divorced or divorcing. Gave him children, waited for the official marriage. And he led her on, just as he did me. You don't hate her? No. I'm angry, of course. But no hatred. She loved a man who presented himself as free. It's not her fault he turned out to be a liar. You're too noble. I would have scratched her eyes out. And what would that have changed? Bernard never loved me anyway. If not Barbara, there would have been someone else. The problem isn't her, it's him. His inability to be honest. We ordered dinner and talked about various things. Lily shared stories about her work, about a new romance with a colleague. I listened, happy for her. It was nice that someone had a fulfilling personal life. Have you thought about new relationships? She asked. Lily, I haven't even divorced my previous one yet. I know. But later. You're not planning to stay alone forever, are you? I don't know. Right now, the thought of a new relationship scares me. How could I trust anyone after such betrayal? Time heals. And not all men are like Bernard. Maybe she was right. But right now, I couldn't think about that. The wound was too fresh. At home, I found a surprise waiting for me. On the living room table lay an envelope. How did it get there? Bernard no longer had keys. Or did he? I carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. Barbara's handwriting. Rebecca, I know I have no right to contact you after everything. But I need to speak with you. Not about Bernard, not about the property division. About something more important. If you agree to meet, please call me. Below was a phone number. I read the letter several times. What did she want? To beg me not to ruin her family? But I had no intention of doing that. The relationship with Bernard didn't concern me. I only needed the legal divorce and division of assets. Curiosity won. I dialed the number. Barbara? This is Rebecca. I received your letter. Thank you for calling. Can we meet? Tomorrow, somewhere neutral? Why? There is something you need to know. About Bernard. Something even I don't fully know. But together we can figure it out. It sounded both mysterious and unsettling. All right. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock at the cafe on Broadway. Thank you. See you then. I hung up, feeling uneasy. What else did I not know about Bernard? What other secrets was he hiding? The night was restless. I tossed and turned, trying to imagine what Barbara wanted to talk about. Did Bernard have yet another family? Or was he involved in something criminal? My imagination painted the darkest scenarios. In the morning, Abigail called. I have news. Not very pleasant. Your husband's lawyer filed a counterclaim. He wants the account freeze lifted, arguing it paralyzes his business. And what does that mean? There will be an additional hearing. The court may partially unblock accounts for ongoing business expenses. But the large sums will remain frozen. When is the hearing? In 3 days. You don't have to attend, I can represent your interests. No. I'll come. I want to look him in the eye. After speaking with the lawyer, I began preparing for the meeting with Barbara. I chose a sharp business suit and minimal makeup. I didn't want to look like a pitiful, abandoned wife or an aggressive fury. The cafe on Broadway was half empty at that time of day. Barbara was already sitting at a corner table. Up close, she looked tired, with shadows under her eyes. The revelation of the truth had clearly been difficult for her as well. Thank you for coming, she said as I sat down across from her. I'm listening. Barbara nervously fidgeted with a napkin. After your visit, I started digging. Asking questions, checking documents. And I discovered strange things. What kind of things? Bernard often goes on business trips. I assumed they were work-related. But I checked tickets, hotels. Many trips weren't connected to his business. Maybe he visited me? Invented trips for you? No, I checked the dates. He wasn't with you on those days. I know because she hesitated. Because you were following him? Barbara blushed. Sorry. I was jealous. I hired a private investigator for a couple of months last year. I wanted to make sure Bernard really wasn't living with you. I should have been angry, but the situation was too absurd. And what did the investigator find? That Bernard really didn't live with you. He came home late, left early. You barely interacted. But on the days he said he was with you, he wasn't there. So where was he? That's the question. The investigator lost his trail several times. A professional couldn't track him. Bernard deliberately covered his tracks, changed cars, used different documents. Things were getting stranger and stranger. Do you think he has another woman? Or women? I asked. Or something entirely different. I found a second passport among his belongings. Under another name, but with his photo. I felt a chill run down my spine. A second passport was serious. It could mean anything, from fraud to espionage. Did you go to the police? No. I'm afraid for the children. If Bernard is involved in something criminal, it could affect them. But I thought, together we could uncover the truth. You have access to his current documents, I have the past. Combining our information, we can see who Bernard really is. I paused. On one hand, I didn't want to dig through dirty laundry. On the other, if Bernard was indeed involved in illegal activity, it could affect the division of assets. I didn't want to end up with money obtained through crime. What do you suggest? Let's exchange information. Everything we know about his trips, contacts, finances. Maybe we'll see the bigger picture. All right. But one condition. If we find evidence of crimes, we go to the police. Regardless of the consequences. Barbara nodded. Agreed. I don't want my children growing up with a criminal father. We arranged to meet in 2 days, each bringing our information. As we parted, Barbara suddenly said, You know, in a way, I'm grateful to you. If you hadn't appeared, I would have continued living in illusions. At least now I know the truth. Partially. We're both victims of his lies. But no more. At home, I began organizing all the information about Bernard from our years together, bank statements, travel photos, business contacts. Gradually, I started noticing oddities I had previously ignored. For example, several times a year, Bernard traveled to the same city in the South, claiming it was for a construction project. But I checked, his company never had projects there. Or the regular transfers of large sums to foreign accounts. For what? The more I dug, the more questions arose. Who was Bernard Fischler? A successful businessman with 2 families? Or something more? Something dangerous? The answers could change everything. And I was determined to find them, not just for the sake of a fair property division, but for the truth. The full, final truth about the man I had lived with for 23 years. The next day brought new discoveries. I decided to visit a former colleague, now working at the tax office. We had once studied together in professional courses and kept in touch. Donald met me at a cafe near his office. After hearing my request to check Bernard's financial history, he frowned. This isn't entirely legal, Rebecca. I can't just dig into databases like that. Donald, I'm not asking for anything criminal. Just see if there are any obvious violations. This is about my divorce, the division of property. I have a right to know where the money comes from. He sighed. All right, I'll take a look. But only superficially, no deep investigations. And it stays between us. Of course. Thank you. A few hours later, Donald called back. His voice was worried. Rebecca, I think your husband is playing dangerous games. I found several companies registered under Front People, but actually controlled by him. Huge sums go through them, sources unclear. Money laundering? Looks like it. But it would require a full investigation. I can't dig further without an official request. I understand. Thank you for the information. So my suspicions were confirmed. Bernard wasn't just an unfaithful, deceitful husband. He was a criminal. And I had lived with him all these years, unaware. That evening, my mother called. I hadn't told her about the divorce, I didn't want to upset her. But I couldn't hide it any longer. My dear, how are you? How's Bernard? Mom, we're getting a divorce. Silence. Then her worried voice. What happened? Did you have a fight? No, Mom. It just turned out he has another family. For 8 years. Things were getting stranger by the minute. Do you think he has another woman? Or women? I asked. Or something entirely different? I found a second passport among his things. Under another name, but with his photo. A chill ran down my spine. A second passport was serious. It could mean anything, from fraud to espionage. Did you go to the police? No. I'm afraid for the children. If Bernard is involved in something criminal, it could affect them. But I thought that together we could uncover the truth. You have access to his current documents, I have access to the past. By combining our information, we can understand who Bernard really is. I hesitated. On one hand, I didn't want to dig into dirty laundry. On the other, if Bernard was involved in illegal activities, it could affect the division of assets. I didn't want to inherit money obtained through crime. What do you suggest? Let's exchange information. Everything we know about his trips, contacts, finances. Maybe we can see the bigger picture. All right. But on one condition. If we find evidence of crimes, we go to the police. Regardless of the consequences. Barbara nodded. Agreed. I don't want my children growing up with a criminal father. We arranged to meet in 2 days, each bringing our own information. As we parted, Barbara suddenly said, You know, in a way, I'm grateful to you. If you hadn't shown up, I would have continued living in illusions. At least now I know the truth. Partially. We're both victims of his lies. But no more. At home, I began organizing all the information about Bernard from our years together, bank statements, travel photos, business contacts. Gradually, I started noticing oddities I had previously ignored. For instance, several times a year Bernard traveled to the same southern city, claiming it was for a construction project. But I checked, his company never had projects there. Or the regular transfers of large sums to foreign accounts. For what? The more I dug, the more questions arose. Who was Bernard Fischler? A successful businessman with 2 families? Or something more? Something dangerous? The answers could change everything. And I was determined to find them, not just for a fair division of property, but for the full, final truth about the man I had lived with for 23 years. The next day, I decided to visit a former colleague, now working at the tax office. Donald greeted me at a cafe near his office. After hearing my request to check Bernard's financial history, he frowned. This isn't entirely legal, Rebecca. I can't just dig into databases like that. Donald, I'm not asking for anything illegal. Just see if there are obvious violations. This is about my divorce, the division of property. I have a right to know where the money comes from. He sighed. All right, I'll take a look. But only superficially, no deep investigations. And it stays between us. Of course. Thank you. A few hours later, Donald called back. His voice was worried. Rebecca, I think your husband is playing dangerous games. I found several companies registered under Front People, but actually controlled by him. Huge sums go through them, sources unclear. Money laundering? Looks like it. But it would require a full investigation. I can't dig further without an official request. I understand. Thank you for the information. My suspicions were confirmed. Bernard wasn't just an unfaithful, deceitful husband. He was a criminal. And I had lived with him all these years, unaware. That evening, my mother called. I hadn't told her about the divorce, I didn't want to upset her. But I couldn't hide it any longer. My dear, how are you? How's Bernard? Mom, we're getting a divorce. Silence. Then her worried voice. What happened? Did you have a fight? No, Mom. It just turned out he has another family. For 8 years. I heard her gasp. No way. Bernard always seemed so decent. Seemed. But he turned out to be different. Come to me, sweetie. Stay here, take a break from all this. Thanks, Mom. But I can't right now. The divorce is ongoing, I need to stay in the city. Do you need help? Money? No, Mom, I have everything. Just moral support. I'm always with you, you know. And you know what? I never fully trusted Bernard. There was something slippery about him. But you loved him so much, I didn't want to ruin your happiness. Another person who sensed something was wrong. Why was I so blind? After talking to my mother, I began going through old photos, our wedding, anniversaries, trips. In every photo, Bernard smiled, hugged me, looked like a loving husband. An actor. A talented actor, playing a role for 2 decades. In one photo, we were in Miami 5 years ago, our last vacation together. I remembered how he constantly got distracted by his phone, stepping away to take calls. Claimed work issues. But probably talking to Barbara. Or someone else. Suddenly, I noticed a detail I hadn't before. In the background of one photo stood a man looking in our direction. The same man appeared in another photo taken on a different day. And a third. Coincidence? Or were we being followed? I grabbed a magnifying glass to examine more closely. The man was middle-aged, unremarkable. But his presence in all the photos couldn't be random. I opened my laptop and started reviewing all our travel photos from recent years. Horrifyingly, similar random people appeared regularly. Different individuals, but their posture, positions, and placement relative to us all indicated professionals. We were being watched. But by whom? And why? The morning of the meeting with Barbara, I woke with a heavy head. All night I'd had nightmares, Bernard with different faces, strangers watching me, documents changing right in my hands. I took a cold shower to wake up, but the anxiety lingered. At breakfast, I spread out all the photos showing strangers and tried to find patterns. The surveillance appeared to have started about 6 years ago, right when Bernard's business began to boom. Coincidence? Hardly. I grabbed a folder with documents and photos and drove to meet Barbara. She was waiting, not in the cafe as planned, but in her car in the parking lot. "Sorry for the change of plans," she said as I got in. But I noticed someone following me. A black Toyota, see it over there? I looked. Indeed, a man sat in a black car, pretending to read a newspaper. He's been following me from home. I made detours, but he didn't give up. "I was being followed too," I said, showing her the photos. "Look at what I found." Barbara studied the images carefully, her face growing paler. "Oh my God. I have similar photos. Us with Bernard and the kids at the park, zoo, the cottage. And in every picture, there are people clearly watching. Did you bring information about his trips?" She pulled out a tablet. "It's all here." I made a table, dates, cities, official reasons, and what I discovered. We leaned over the screen. A strange pattern emerged. Bernard regularly traveled to 3 cities, Atlanta, Seattle, and Phoenix. Always 34 days, always alone, always with minimal luggage. In Atlanta he definitely has no business, Barbara said. I checked through contacts. No construction sites, no partners. My records show the same. He traveled there even during our marriage, claiming to check potential sites. Suddenly, my phone rang. An unknown number. "Rebecca?" A deep male voice with a slight accent. "We need to talk about your husband." "Who are you?" "This isn't a phone conversation. Come to Central Park, by the fountain. In an hour. Alone. I'm not meeting a stranger. Do you want to know the truth about Bernard Fischler? Or continue digging blindly, putting yourself at risk?" The line went dead. I looked at Barbara. She had heard the call. I had put it on speaker. "Don't go," she said. "It could be a trap. What if it's a chance to learn the truth? Then I'll go with you. I'll stay nearby, just in case." We agreed that Barbara would remain within sight and call the police if anything went wrong. An hour later, I stood by the fountain in Central Park. A crisp October day, few people around, perfect for a confidential conversation. or something far more sinister. The man appeared right on time. Tall, gray-haired, wearing an expensive coat. His face was refined, but his eyes were cold and calculating. "Rebecca, thank you for coming. My name is Austin. I represent certain organizations interested in your husband's activities." "What organizations?" "That's not important. What matters is that your husband is playing a double game, not just in his family life. Be clearer." He looked around, then sat on a bench, gesturing for me to join him. Bernard Fischler, or, as he's known in certain circles, Tyler Hartley, works for multiple sites simultaneously. His construction business is a cover for money laundering. But not only that. Tyler Hartley? He has a second passport under that name. Barbara found it. Austin nodded. He has several identities. And in each city he regularly visits, he has a separate life, separate contacts, and obligations. Are you saying he has more than 2 families? Families are the least of the problem. Your husband is a courier. He transports information worth millions. Industrial espionage, if you will. I felt the ground fall from under me. Espionage? Bernard? Do you have proof? We have everything. Records, photos, documents. The question is, are you willing to cooperate? Cooperate with what? Help us gain access to his files. In exchange, we guarantee your safety and a substantial compensation. You're asking me to become an informant? I'm offering you protection. Bernard Fischler is dangerous, with dangerous connections. When his activities are exposed, which will happen soon, everyone around him will be at risk. Including you. But I filed for divorce. I have no connection to him anymore. You were his wife for 23 years. The court will assume you couldn't have been unaware of his activities, especially considering you helped him with bookkeeping in the early years. It made sense, and was terrifying. What exactly do you want from me? Access to his home computer. Old documents. Everything that can help establish his contacts and schemes. I don't have access to the apartment. He moved out. But you have copies of the documents. Megan gave you the flash drive. How did he know about Megan? About the flash drive? Panic surged through me. Don't be afraid, Austin said, noticing my reaction. We are not enemies. We're on your side. But we need your help. And if I refuse? Then you'll be alone against the system your husband built. And believe me, that system leaves no witnesses. At that moment, my phone rang. Barbara? Rebecca, get out of there. 3 black SUVs just arrived at the park. People got out, they're heading your way. Austin also noticed the movement. They're your husband's people. He found out about our meeting. Follow me, quickly. There was no time to think. I followed him. We moved quickly through the park, then he suddenly turned toward a service exit where a nondescript gray car waited. Get in. I got in. The car sped off. In the rearview mirror, I saw several men running toward the fountain. They looked around, then rushed back to the SUVs. Will they pursue us? I asked. They'll try. But we'll lose them. The driver maneuvered expertly through traffic, making sudden turns, running yellow lights. 15 minutes later, it was clear we had escaped. Where are we going? To a safe location. You cannot return home. They'll be waiting for you there. But my things, my documents. We'll take care of everything. Right now, your safety is the priority. They brought me to an unassuming office center on the outskirts of the city. We went up to the 5th floor, down a long corridor. Behind a plain door marked consulting agency was anything but ordinary. Computers, monitors showing surveillance cameras, maps on the walls. Sit down, Austin instructed, pointing to a chair. We need to have a serious conversation. He pulled out a folder and spread the photographs across the table. Bernard in different cities, with different people. Some faces were recognizable from the news: politicians, businessmen, even a couple of crime figures. Your husband is a liaison between several groups. He passes information about government contracts, facilitates money laundering, organizes gray schemes. His construction company builds projects worth 3 times their actual cost. The difference ends up in pockets. Corruption on a massive scale. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. We have reason to believe he's passed information about strategic facilities to foreign companies. You mean he's a traitor? In the legal sense, yes. But he's not ideological. He's just very greedy and very smart, someone who decided he could play all sides at once. I stared at the photos, trying to recognize the Bernard I knew. Or thought I knew. What will happen to him? Arrest. Trial. Long sentence. But first we need to gather all evidence. And that's where we need your help. I've already said, I don't have access. But you have knowledge. You know his habits, passwords, contacts. You can help us understand his schemes. There was a knock at the door. A woman entered with a tray, tea, and sandwiches. I realized for the first time that I hadn't eaten all morning. Eat something, Austin said. We have a long conversation ahead. I took a cup of tea, my hands trembling. What about Barbara? Is she in danger too? We'll ensure her safety. And the children. They're not responsible for their father's crimes. Does she know? She suspects. But she doesn't grasp the full scale. I sipped the hot, sweet tea, which helped steady me a little. If I agree to help, what will happen to me? After everything? Witness protection program, if necessary. New documents, new life. Or simply a quiet divorce and the chance to move on. The choice is yours. And if I refuse? Then we act without you. But it will take longer. And no guarantees for your safety. The choice was clear. I nodded. All right. I'll help. What do I need to do? First, tell us everything you know about his trips, contacts, habits. Every detail could be important. For the next several hours, I recounted everything: the strange midnight calls, people who came to the house and locked themselves in with Bernard in the office, unexplained sums moving through accounts. Austin listened carefully, occasionally asking clarifying questions, while his assistant recorded everything. Code word, he said suddenly. He must have a code word or phrase for emergencies. Remember, did he ever say something strange, repeated? I thought for a moment, then remembered. Northern Lights. He sometimes said it in his sleep. And once I overheard him say it on the phone, then abruptly end the call. Austin exchanged a glance with his assistant. Northern Lights is the code name for an operation. We've been trying to figure it out for a long time. Now it's clear. Thank you. In the evening, I was taken to a small apartment in a residential area. It's safe here, the escort said. Don't go out unless necessary. Food is in the fridge. If you need anything, call. He handed me a phone, only for emergency contact. Alone, I sat on the couch, trying to process everything. That morning I had been just a cheating wife, fighting for a fair divorce. Now I was a witness in a case involving espionage and corruption. The phone he gave me rang. Rebecca? This is Barbara. Austin gave me this number. Barbara, are you okay? Yes, the kids and I have also been moved to a safe location. Can you believe it? Bernard Tyler, who is he even? I'm trying to understand that too. They said he will be arrested in the coming days. What will happen to us? I don't know. But we'll manage. We're strong. The children, how do I explain to them that their father is a criminal? I had no answer. How do you explain to children that the person they love is a monster? The night passed sleeplessly. I lay in a stranger's bed in a stranger's apartment, thinking about how quickly my life had collapsed. A week ago, I was the respectable wife of a successful businessman. Now I was hiding under the protection of intelligence services from the man I had lived with for 23 years. The next morning, Austin called again. "Rebecca, we have information that Bernard plans to leave the country. He has a ticket for tonight's flight to Dubai. He's running? He's trying. But we won't let him. The arrest will happen at the airport. It will be high profile, the press will know. Be prepared for your name to appear in the news. As the wife of a spy? As a victim of deception. We'll make sure it's presented properly." After the call, I turned on the TV. News, commercials, shows. Ordinary life for ordinary people, a life I no longer had. At 2 p.m., an emergency news bulletin appeared. Today at the airport, well-known businessman Bernard Fischler was detained on suspicion of espionage and large-scale corruption. The screen showed footage, Bernard in handcuffs, a bewildered expression, uniformed people around him. He looked pitiful, not a successful businessman, but a caught thief. The anchor continued. According to investigators, Fischler has been passing confidential information to foreign companies for years and laundering money through his construction company. Then an interview with an official discussing the fight against corruption and the inevitability of punishment. I turned off the TV. I couldn't watch anymore. In the evening, Austin arrived. Everything went smoothly. He didn't resist. He's now in a detention center. What's next? Investigation. Trial. It will take months, maybe years. You'll have to testify. I'm ready. And we checked his finances. Most of the money has been moved abroad. Only a little remains in the U.S. How much? About $10 million. The rest is in accounts we don't have access to. 10 million out of 60. And that portion would probably be seized as illicitly obtained. What about the divorce? The procedure will continue. But the property division as you planned won't happen. All of Fischler's assets are frozen until the court decides. So, I would get nothing. After 23 years of marriage, support, patience. Nothing. I understand this is unfair, Austin said. But there's a government program to support victims. You will receive compensation. How much? A special commission will decide. Don't expect much. I nodded. Money no longer felt important. What mattered was survival, keeping my sanity, starting a new life. When can I go home? In a few days. Investigators are working there and seizing documents. And then are you sure you want to return? That apartment will be in all the news as the home of a spy. He was right. My apartment, my former life, it had all been poisoned by Bernard's lies. What do you suggest? Start fresh. We'll help with documents, work, housing. In another city, if you wish. Run or not run. Start over. I had a chance. I thought about it all night. About my mother, who would worry? Friends whispering behind my back. Colleagues giving me sideways glances. Maybe it really was better to leave. The next morning, Lily called. Rebecca, I saw the news. Is it true? Bernard is a spy? Looks that way. Oh my God. How are you? I'm holding up. Where are you? I'll come. I can't say. I'm under protection. Under protection? Rebecca, what's happening? Lily, I can't talk on the phone. Just know, I'm safe. After talking to Lily, I felt lighter. I had true friends. That mattered more than money or status. Later that day, Austin returned. We have an offer. If you agree to provide detailed testimony and help unravel all of Fischler's schemes, the government guarantees you $5 million in compensation. $5 million? That's the maximum we can offer. And new documents if you want to change your identity. Change my identity? Rebecca Fischler will always be associated with this case. But you can become someone else. Start a new life. It was tempting, shed the old skin, forget the past, become a new person. I need to think, I said. Of course. But the decision must be made quickly. That evening, Barbara called. Rebecca, I've made my decision. I'm leaving with the kids to my parents in Oregon. I'll start a new life there. That's the right choice. And you? I haven't decided yet. You know, strangely, I'm grateful to you. If it weren't for you, I would have continued living with the monster. We're both victims, Barbara. Yes. But now we're free. Maybe without money, without status, but free. She was right. Freedom is worth more than money. The next day, I made my decision. I agreed to Austin's offer. I would testify, help the investigation, and then leave. I didn't know where, but far from here. Long days of questioning began. I recounted everything I remembered, dates, sums, names. Investigators recorded, verified, cross-checked. Sometimes they brought documents for identification. I recognized Bernard's handwriting, his signatures. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings continued. The court was a formality. Divorce under special grounds, long-term separate living. No property division. Everything frozen. One day, I was called for a face-to-face session with Bernard. I hadn't seen him since the arrest. He had changed dramatically, thinner, gaunt, with a dim look in his eyes. Rebecca, he said when I was led into the interrogation room, I'm sorry. I stayed silent. What was there to say? I never wanted this to happen. It started small, then it got out of hand. Small? A double life, espionage, corruption, that small? I mean, at first, it was just minor gray schemes. Everyone does it. Then some people offered more. I couldn't refuse. You can always refuse. It's a choice. You don't understand. They don't accept refusal. Who are they? Bernard shook his head. I can't say. Not even here. An investigator interjected. Fischler, you promised to cooperate. I am cooperating. But some things would be a death sentence for me. I was stunned. Bernard, always so confident and self-assured, was now genuinely afraid. They'll kill me if I reveal Northern Lights. And not just me, Barbara, the kids, you. Me? But I don't know anything. They don't believe ignorance. They think I could have told you. The investigator recorded every word. Who are these people, Fischler? Name them. Bernard stubbornly remained silent. The confrontation ended inconclusively. Bernard admitted to corruption and money laundering but denied espionage and refused to name his clients. After the session, Austin drove me back to the safe apartment. He's scared, he said. That's a good sign. Scared people eventually talk. And if he doesn't? Then he'll get the maximum sentence for the charges we can prove. 15 to 20 years. 20 years. Bernard was 51. He'd come out an old man if he survived. And the kids? What about Barbara's children? They're innocent. The state will ensure their education and support. At least something good in this story. A month passed. The investigation continued. I gave statements, signed protocols, and simultaneously arranged new documents. I decided to change my last name back to my maiden name, Eggert. Rebecca Eggert. It felt right. The apartment where I had lived with Bernard was sold at auction. The proceeds went toward compensating the state. I was allowed to take personal items, photos, clothes, books. Everything fit into a few boxes. 23 years of life in a few boxes. The compensation was transferred to a new account under my new name. $5 million. Not 30, as it could have been, but not zero either. Enough to start a new life. I chose a small town on the West Coast. Quiet, peaceful, by the ocean. I bought a modest apartment with a water view and started working as an accountant for a local firm. No one asked questions. Austin had likely arranged a cover story. My new life began in December. I arrived with 2 suitcases and a firm determination to forget the past. The apartment greeted me with emptiness and the smell of fresh renovations. The previous owners had left only the built-in kitchen. Everything else I had to buy myself. The first night, I slept on a mattress on the floor. I lay there listening to the sound of the ocean outside my window, feeling like I was being born anew. Starting over at 45 was frightening, but also exhilarating. The next morning, I went to the local market, buying dishes, bedding, and towels. The shopkeeper, a cheerful woman of about 60, struck up a conversation. New here? Moved to our town? Yes, transferred for work. Good town. Quiet. Not many tourists. Friendly locals. Family? No, alone. Well, being alone is fine too. No one bothers you. She was right. Being alone was peaceful. No lies, no betrayals, no one using me. At work, I was welcomed calmly. The office was small, 5 people, everyone minding their own business. The work was simple, routine. After the chaos of a big city, this felt like relief. In the evenings, I walked along the waterfront. Winter on the West Coast was mild, a light jacket was enough. The ocean in winter was different, gray, contemplative. Like my mood. Gradually, I set up my apartment. Bought furniture, hung curtains, arranged books. Creating a new home, my own, without the taint of someone else's lies. In January, Austin called. How are you settling in? Well, thank you. Any news on the case? Fischler has started giving testimony. Named names, outlined schemes. New arrests are coming. What made him talk? An attempt. In the cell. One of his cellmates tried to strangle him. He barely survived. I shuddered. Despite all my anger toward Bernard, I didn't want him dead. Now he realizes silence won't save him. He's speaking. The case is taking a serious turn. You may be called for additional testimony. I'm ready. I hope it won't be necessary. You've earned peace. After the call, I spent a long time staring at the ocean. Bernard's fear wasn't in vain. Those he worked for had decided to remove him, and nearly succeeded. Terrifying to realize how deeply I had been involved all those years without knowing it. In February, Lily suddenly arrived. She found me despite all precautions. Don't be mad, she said at the door. I couldn't not know how you were. Got your address from your old boss. I hugged my friend. I had missed someone close so badly. We spent the whole night in the kitchen talking. I told her everything about the espionage, the testimony, the new life. You're a hero, Lily said. You went through hell and survived. Not a hero. I had no choice. There's always a choice. You could have broken, drunk yourself away, or worse. You chose to live. She was right. I chose life. Lily stayed for 3 days. We strolled, visited cafes, laughed a lot. Like in our youth. When leaving, she said, you've changed. Stronger. Freer. This new life suits you. In March, I received a letter from Barbara. She had settled in Portland, the children were in school and kindergarten, life was stabilizing. Thank you for everything. If not for you, I'd still be living in lies. The kids ask about their father often. I tell them he's far away on work. When they grow up, I'll tell them the truth, carefully, in parts. They are not responsible for his sins. I wish you happiness in your new life. You deserve it. Barbara. I replied briefly, wishing her luck. A strange connection existed between Barbara and me, 2 women deceived by the same man. Almost friends, but not quite. In April, the tourist season started. The town grew busier, but not overwhelmingly. I already felt like a local. I knew the shopkeepers, cafe staff, neighbors. A small world, but mine. In May, my mother visited. I had hesitated to invite her, fearing questions and judgment. But she surprised me. "You did the right thing leaving," she said, inspecting my apartment. "A new life, new opportunities. And you know what? You look happier than in the years with Bernard." "Really?" "Yes. Before, your eyes held sorrow. Now, peace." My mother always saw right through me. We spent a wonderful week together, walking, cooking, reminiscing about Dad, who passed 15 years ago. "He would be proud of you," my mother said. "His daughter endured trials and remained a good person." In June, Austin called for the last time. "The case is closed." Fischler received 18 years. 12 others arrested based on his testimony. "You won't be needed anymore." "That's it? That's it. You're free. Live peacefully." After that call, I felt the last thread tying me to the past snap. Bernard was convicted, the case closed, I was free. In August, a new colleague appeared at work. Joseph, 50, had moved from New York after a divorce. Calm, intelligent, with sad eyes. We started having lunch together, then strolling after work. Nothing romantic, just two lonely people comfortable in each other's company. One evening, sitting on a bench by the ocean, he said, "I know who you are." My heart sank. "What do you mean?" "The Fischler case." I followed it. My ex-wife worked for a company that suffered from his schemes. They lost a contract. The company went bankrupt. "You came here because of me?" "Don't be mad." "Because of you?" "Why?" "You're just as much a victim as many others." We sat in silence for a long time, watching the ocean. "What now?" I asked. "Nothing. We keep living. If you want, we can continue walking together. No obligations, no promises. Just two people who enjoy each other's company." I agreed. I didn't have the strength for a new relationship, for building trust, for opening my heart. But Joseph's company was comforting. We walked, went to the theater, sometimes had dinner together. He never rushed me, never pressured, never demanded more. And that was right. In autumn, I received one last letter. No return address, handwriting unfamiliar. "Rebecca, you don't know me, but I know your story. I am one of the victims of your ex-husband's schemes. I lost a house he built with violations. I was angry at you for a long time, thought you were complicit. But then I learned the truth. You suffered more than anyone. You lost not only money but faith in people and in love. I want to thank you for your courage in testifying, for helping put him away. He destroyed many lives, but because of you, he can't anymore. I wish you happiness. You deserve it." No signature. I read the letter over and over. So many people had suffered because of Bernard. So many ruined lives, lost money, broken hopes. And I had lived with this man, slept in the same bed, dreamed of children. But that was the past. In the present, I had a quiet town by the ocean, work, new friends, and maybe new happiness, not bright, not passionate, but real. In December, exactly 1 year after moving, I woke with a sense of peace. I looked out at the gray winter ocean, brewed coffee, and sat in an armchair with a book. An ordinary morning of an ordinary day. But in this ordinariness, there was a special charm. No lies, no betrayals, no exploitation. I was alone, but not lonely. Not wealthy, but secure. Unknown, but free. The phone rang. "Joseph." "Good morning. Want to go for a walk?" "The weather is beautiful." "With pleasure." We met on the boardwalk. Walked slowly, talking about trivial things, weather, work, the books we were reading. Simple topics, simple words. But there was more truth in them than in all of Bernard's vows over 23 years. "You know," Joseph said, "I think nothing happens by chance. We had to go through trials to appreciate the simple things. Which things? Honesty, peace, the ability to walk by the ocean without fear and lies. He was right. Simple things had become a luxury after all I had endured. We reached the end of the boardwalk, where an old gazebo stood. We sat on a bench, looking at the ocean. Joseph took my hand, gently, as if asking permission. I didn't pull away. His hand was warm, reassuring. Not passionate, but real. Thank you, I said. For what? For not rushing. For understanding. We have time. Our whole lives ahead, and it was true. I had my whole life ahead, without Bernard, without lies, without fear. A new life I would build myself, on my own terms, at my own pace. Half a year passed. Spring returned to our little town, bringing the scent of blooming magnolias and the salty ocean breeze. I thought my story with the past was over, that all ghosts were laid to rest, all secrets revealed. But life had one more surprise. In April, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. I had learned not to flinch at every call, but I answered cautiously. Rebecca Eggert? Yes, that's me. My name is Michelle Fischler. I am Bernard's mother. My heart skipped a beat. His mother. My former mother-in-law. In all the years of marriage, I had seen her only a few times. Bernard always said they didn't get along, that she lived in another city and didn't want contact. Another lie. I'm listening, I said. I need to meet with you. It's very important. It concerns not only Bernard, but you as well. Michelle, if this is some attempt to ask for help for Bernard or to blame me. No, she interrupted. On the contrary. I want to apologize to you. And to tell you the truth. The whole truth you have a right to know. Something in her voice made me agree. Perhaps it was fatigue and pain, feelings I knew all too well. We arranged to meet a week later. She would come to my town, stay at a hotel. She didn't want to cause any inconvenience. All week I wondered what she could reveal. What truth had I yet to learn? It seemed all the cards were already on the table. Bernard, a bigamist, a fraud, a spy. What could be worse? On the day of our meeting, I spent a long time deciding what to wear. Silly, but I wanted to look dignified before the woman who had given birth to the person who had destroyed my life. I settled on a simple dark dress and minimal jewelry. Michelle waited for me in the hotel lobby. I didn't recognize her at first. Older, gray-haired, dressed simply. Nothing like the commanding woman I remembered. Thank you for coming, she said, approaching me. Let's go to the cafe, we can talk quietly there. We sat at a corner table and ordered tea. For a while, we remained silent. You look well, she finally said. The ocean suits you. Thank you. You wanted to tell me something? She sighed, wrapping her hands around the cup as if to warm herself. I must start with apologies. For what my son did to you. For knowing and staying silent. You knew? About the other family? Not just that. I knew everything. Or almost everything. And I stayed silent because she paused, choosing her words. Because I was afraid, for him and for myself. Tell me from the beginning. Michelle nodded. Bernard is not my biological son. I adopted him when he was 5. Yes, adopted. Bernard was born a girl. I almost dropped my cup. What? It's a long story, she continued, seeing my shock. I worked as a doctor in an orphanage. A 5-year-old girl was brought there, found in an abandoned house. No documents, signs of abuse, psychological trauma. The girl didn't speak, only drew. Terrifying drawings. She took an old photograph from her bag, a small child with enormous, frightened eyes. That's Bernard? At that time, her name was Rachel. I bonded with her, she bonded with me. A year later, I legally adopted her. But from the start, it was clear the child was different. She refused to wear dresses, play with dolls. She said she was a boy, that her real name was Bernard. I listened, unable to believe my ears. Psychologists said it was the result of trauma. But over time, it became clear it was deeper. At 14, he tried to take his own life. Left a note saying he couldn't live in the wrong body anymore. And I was terrified of losing the child. I sought out specialists, doctors. Back then, it was difficult, almost impossible. But I found someone willing to help, illegally, for a lot of money. Hormone therapy, then surgery. By 18, Rachel had officially become Bernard. I tried to process what I had just heard. Bernard, my husband, the father of a family, a successful businessman, had been born female. The new documents were prepared through connections. All traces of the past were destroyed. Bernard started a new life as a man. Enrolled in university, became a successful student. I thought the worst was over. But childhood trauma never disappeared. And the need to constantly hide his past. Bernard became a pathological liar. He couldn't live any other way. His whole life was built on lies. He lied to me from day one, I said bitterly. Yes. But not only to you. To everyone. Even to himself. He created different personas, different lives, trying to find the one in which he would be happy. But there was no happiness. And the children? He has children with Barbara. Michelle shook her head. They aren't his. He can't have children, you understand. Barbara got pregnant by a colleague, not him. Bernard knew, but accepted the children as his own. He needed the illusion of a normal masculine life. Everything became even more tangled and tragic. Why are you telling me this now? Because you have the right to know. And because she pulled an envelope from her bag. Bernard wrote this letter to you from prison. Asked me to give it to you if something happened to him. Something happened? 2 weeks ago, he decided to say goodbye to life in his cell. He couldn't live with the exposure. I felt a strange emptiness. Neither grief nor relief, just emptiness. I took the envelope but didn't open it. He loved you, Michelle said. In his way, twisted, but he loved. You were his anchor to reality. With you, he felt like a real man, successful, normal. But he started a second family. Because you saw through him. Felt the falsehood. He needed a woman who would believe the illusion unconditionally. Barbara believed. I sat there for a long time in silence, trying to process everything. All my hatred for Bernard suddenly seemed petty compared to his tragedy, a person who had spent his entire life trying to be someone else and died never finding himself. In the letter, he explains everything, Michelle said. Read it when you're ready. And I wanted to say one more thing. The money you received as compensation, it's fair. You deserved it. Even more than that. She stood up to leave. Michelle, I called after her. What about Bernard's childhood? What trauma did he experience? She paused without turning around. Group bullying. She was 4 years old. Her mother didn't protect her. After that, the girl decided it was dangerous to be a girl. That only boys could be strong and safe. She left, leaving me with the envelope and the weight of new knowledge. I returned home and sat on the balcony overlooking the ocean. I stared at the envelope for a long time before finally opening it. Bernard's handwriting, bold, confident, but full of pain. Rebecca, my beloved Rebecca. I know I have no right to call you that after everything. But for me, you will always be my beloved. The only woman who saw the real me and stayed. Did your mother tell you the truth? Then you know my greatest secret, the one I even hid from myself. I am not a man, Rebecca. Never have been. My entire life has been a performance, an attempt to be someone I wanted to be but could not. You asked why I didn't divorce if I loved Barbara? I did not love her. I loved you. Always only you. Barbara was my escape from myself, an attempt to create the perfect image of a man's life, wife, children, big house. But it was a lie, like everything else. With you, I could not lie completely. You felt the falsehood, asked questions, sought truth. I hated you for it. And loved you. Because only with you was I almost myself. Forgive the stolen years. The lies. The betrayal. That I could not be the husband you deserved. Forgive the children we did not have. I knew I could not give them to you, but I stayed silent. Another lie in a chain of others. The espionage, the corruption, attempts to prove I was a real man. Strong, dangerous, influential. But inside was always a frightened little girl, not understanding why the world is cruel. I end this life because I am tired of lying. Tired of not being myself. In prison, there is nowhere to run from yourself. One must look in the mirror and face the truth. And the truth is, I am a monster. Not a man, not a woman, something broken and dangerous. Be happy, Rebecca. You deserve real love, a real life. Forget me. Let me remain in your memory as the nightmare from which you finally awoke. Your never-existent husband, Bernard. I finished reading and cried. For the first time, I mourned Bernard sincerely, not the traitorous husband, but the broken child who never healed. That evening, Joseph came. Seeing my tear-stained face, he silently embraced me. I told him everything, the meeting with Michelle, the truth about Bernard, the letter. Does this change anything for you? He asked. I thought for a moment. It doesn't change what he did. But it helps me understand why. And maybe even forgive. Forgiveness isn't for him. It's for you. To let go of the past. He was right. I needed to forgive, not for Bernard, but for myself, to finally be free. The next day I went to the cemetery. Bernard had been buried in a closed casket, without ceremony, only his mother present. I placed white roses on the grave. His favorite. Or perhaps he even invented that. Goodbye, Bernard, I whispered. Or Rachel. Or whoever you really were. I forgive you. And I let you go. Rest in peace. Walking away from the cemetery, I felt an incredible lightness, as if I had dropped the heavy burden I had carried for years. At home, Barbara called. Rebecca, did you hear? Yes. His mother told me the truth. I'm in shock. The children, they aren't his. It was all a lie. Barbara, the children loved him as a father. That isn't a lie. Perhaps the only truth in this entire story. How can you be so calm? He deceived us both. He deceived himself first. We were just props in his play. Barbara cried and hung up. I understood her. She needed time to accept the truth. That evening, I reread Megan's note, the one it all began with. Your husband is leading a double life. He has another family in the suburbs. At the time, those words felt like the end of the world. Now I knew they were just the tip of the iceberg. Bernard had led many lives. He wore hundreds of masks, and not one was true. I thought of Megan. Where was she now? How had her life turned out after losing her job? I tried to find her online but couldn't. Perhaps it was for the best. Some people enter our lives only to open the door to truth and then leave, having completed their mission. Another year passed. I had finally settled into life in the coastal town. Work had become familiar, even enjoyable. My colleagues had accepted me as one of their own. No one knew my story, and that was a blessing. Joseph and I kept seeing each other. No passion, no vows, just deep care and understanding. Two wounded people learning to trust, little by little. One summer evening, we were sitting by the ocean. The sunset turned the water golden. Rebecca, Joseph said, I want to suggest something. No pressure, just an idea. I'm listening. Let's take a trip. Somewhere far away. Iceland, maybe. You always wanted to see the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights. Bernard's code word. But now it didn't make me shiver. Just words. You know what? Let's go. But not Iceland. Somewhere with no memories. New Zealand, maybe. Perfect. A new country for a new life. We started planning. Looking through guides, choosing routes. Like ordinary people planning a vacation. No victims, no broken lives. Just two people wanting to see the world. A week before the trip, a letter arrived from Michelle. Dear Rebecca, thank you for listening to me back then. Thank you for forgiving Bernard. I know he didn't deserve it, but your kindness helped me come to terms with his passing. I'm selling all my property and moving to my sister in Canada. Starting a new life at 70. It's never too late, right? I want to give you something. This is the only real photograph of Bernard, without a mask, without a roll. You may keep it or not. Your choice. Be happy. You deserve it. With respect, Michelle. Inside was a small photo. Bernard asleep. His face relaxed, vulnerable. No act, no lies. Just a tired man finding peace in sleep. I stared at it for a long time, then placed it in the album with other photos from my past life. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't put it on display either. The past should stay in the past. The trip to New Zealand was a turning point. Far from everything familiar, surrounded by breathtaking nature, I finally felt completely free. The past was thousands of miles away. There was only the present. Mountains, ocean, Joseph by my side. On top of a mountain, looking over endless landscapes, I said suddenly, you know, I think it was all worth it. Worth what? This whole story. The pain, the betrayal, the lies. If it hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't know how strong I can be. Joseph took my hand. Philosophy says everything happens for a reason. Do you believe that? I believe we give meaning to what happens. I could have broken, become bitter, shut down. But I chose to keep living. That's my doing, not fate's. He was right. I chose to live. After the trip, I made an important decision. I wrote a book. Not memoirs, not exposés. A novel about a woman who discovers the truth about her husband and finds the strength to start over. I changed names, places, details. But the essence remained. The book unexpectedly became popular. The publisher said readers could feel the truth in it, even not knowing it was based on real events. I received letters from women thanking me for inspiration, for hope. One letter touched me deeply. I read your book and cried. My story was similar. My husband led a double life for 15 years. When I found out, I thought I would die from the pain. But your heroine showed me that life goes on. Thank you for hope. I replied, as I did to many others. We even met when she came to my town. Two women, betrayed, finding strength to move on. With Joseph, our relationship grew slowly but steadily. We didn't rush into formal commitments, didn't make vows. We were together, building trust and closeness day by day. 2 years after Bernard's death, Joseph proposed. Not on his knee, no $1 million ring. Just over breakfast, shall we get married? Quietly, without fuss. Just to be officially a family. I agreed. Not out of passion or romantic illusions, but because I knew this man wouldn't betray me. He was as wounded, as cautious as I was. We both knew the value of trust. The wedding was modest. Just the two of us at City Hall. No white dresses, no limousines, no vows of eternal love. Just signatures in the registry and a quiet dinner at our favorite restaurant. A week later, my mother came to visit. She met Joseph and approved. He's reliable, she said. With him, you're safe. Safety. Once, I thought it boring. Now I knew, it was the greatest gift of all. Lily visited regularly. We walked, reminisced about our youth, made plans. She had also married that colleague she'd mentioned before. Happy for you. You know, she said one day, I think Bernard did you a favor. A favor? Yes. Through his lies and betrayal, he forced you to become strong. To find yourself. Without him, you might have spent your life as just the wife of a successful businessman. Strange logic, but in a way, she was right. The trials had shaped me, made me who I was. 5 years had passed since the day Megan gave me that note. 5 years that turned my life upside down. From a housewife, I became a writer. From a victim, a fighter. From a broken woman, a happy person. Sometimes I think of Bernard. Not with hatred or pain, but with sadness. What could his life have been like if he'd been protected as a child? If he could have been himself without hiding the truth? Maybe he would have become a good man. Or a good woman. Or something in between. Now we'll never know. I think of Barbara and the kids. The last I heard, they were settled in Portland. The children grow up not knowing the truth about their father. Maybe one day Barbara will tell them. Or maybe not. That's her choice. I think of Megan, who risked her job and safety to tell me the truth. Wherever she is, I am grateful. That note saved me from living a life of lies. Recently, I received a strange letter. No return address, printed on a computer. Rebecca, you don't know me, but I know your story. I worked in the organization that investigated your husband's case. I want you to know, you saved many lives. The information you provided helped uncover an entire network. Dozens avoided financial ruin, several strategic facilities were protected from leaks. You are a hero, even if you don't feel it. Thank you. Someone who cannot give their name. A hero? I was just trying to survive. But if my struggle helped others, then it wasn't in vain. Today is an ordinary day. Morning coffee on the balcony, looking at the ocean. Joseph reads the newspaper, I check my mail. An ordinary life for ordinary people. But I know the value of this ordinary life. I know what it took to reach this peace. I am grateful for every day without lies, without fear, without betrayal. The phone rang. An unknown number. I would have panicked before. Now, I calmly answered. Hello? Rebecca? It's Megan. Remember me? My heart skipped a beat. Megan. Of course, I remembered. How are you? I'm good. I read your book. I recognized the story, even with the details changed. I wanted to thank you. Thank you. For the note. For your courage. I doubted for a long time if I did the right thing. I mean, I disrupted your life. No, Megan. You saved me. From living a lie, from the humiliation of being deceived without knowing it. You gave me a chance at a real life. I'm glad. Really glad. You know, I started a new life too. Opened a small staffing agency. Got married. Had a daughter. Congratulations. Thank you. I wanted to ask. Can I come visit? Meet you in person? We changed each other's lives, yet we barely know each other. I smiled. Of course, come. I'd love to see you. We arranged to meet in a month. Hanging up, I thought, the circle closes. The person who started all this comes back. But now, not with bad news, just as a friend. Joseph looked at me curiously. That was Megan. The one who gave you the note. She wants to visit. Invite her. I want to thank the person who led me to you. I laughed. Indeed, if not for that note, there would have been no divorce, no move, no meeting Joseph. Strange how fate works. That evening, I pulled out the same note. I still keep it as a reminder. Neat handwriting, blue ink. Rebecca, I'm sorry to interfere, but my conscience won't let me stay silent. Your husband is leading a double life. Double? If Megan knew how much more complicated it was. But she told what she knew. That was enough to set off the avalanche of truth. I put the note back in the box of mementos. The photos, Bernard's letter, the divorce documents, all of my past life in one box. And my real life was all around me. In my cozy apartment by the ocean, with a loving husband, a job I enjoyed, friends who accepted me as I am. That night, I had a dream. Bernard, young as he was when we met. But now I saw behind his confident mask a frightened child. "Forgive me," he said in the dream. "I forgive you," I replied. "Go in peace." He smiled and faded into the mist. I woke up with a feeling of complete freedom. The past had let me go, just as I had let it go. Over breakfast, Joseph said, "You know, I was thinking about your story about Bernard. Do you think he would have been happier if he had been born in our time? When society is more accepting?" I thought for a moment. Maybe. Or maybe he would have found other ways to destroy himself. Some people carry destruction within, no matter the circumstances. You believe people don't change? I believe only those who want to change do. Bernard didn't want to. He wanted the world to change for him, and you've changed completely. I'm no longer the naive girl who married a perfect picture. But I'm not a bitter woman seeking revenge either. I'm just me. Rebecca, a writer, who loves the ocean and enjoys simple pleasures. Joseph lifted his coffee cup. To simple pleasures. I lifted mine. To the truth, no matter how bitter. We clinked cups and laughed. An ordinary morning for ordinary people. But for me, it felt like a miracle. A month later, Megan came to visit. A young woman with sharp eyes and a determined chin. We hugged like old friends, though we'd seen each other only a few times over the years. "You look amazing," she said. "The ocean suits you." "Thank you. You've blossomed too." We walked along the boardwalk, talking. She told me how hard it had been after being fired, how long she struggled to find work without references. But eventually, she took a risk, got a loan, and started her own business. You know, in a way, Bernard did me a favor. By firing me, he pushed me to start my own life. He did that for a lot of people, I smiled. You're not angry at him? Not anymore. Anger takes too much energy. Better to use it to create something good. Megan nodded. I wondered for a long time if I did the right thing. Maybe I should have stayed silent? No, I said firmly. The truth is always better than lies. Even painful truth is better than sweet lies. That evening, we had dinner together, Megan with her husband, and me with Joseph. We talked about books, travel, future plans. Nobody mentioned the past. It stayed behind us. As we said goodbye to Megan, I told her, thank you. For everything. No, thank you. For your strength, for your example. You've shown it's possible to survive betrayal and remain human. We hugged. Maybe we'd see each other again, maybe not. But the bond between us would always remain. The bond of two women whose lives were changed by a single note. Another year passed. My second book also became popular. I started receiving invitations to literary events and interviews, but I kept to the shadows. My story was not entertainment for the public. One day, after an event, a woman approached me. Middle-aged, tired face, but a determined look in her eyes. You're Rebecca Eggert? The writer? Yes. I am Bernard Fischler's wife. One of. I froze. Another one. My name is Sarah. I lived with him in Atlanta. 7 years. We have a son. Oh my God. A third family. I only found out the truth after his arrest. I saw it in the news. He said his name was Tyler, that he was a widower. We sat on a bench in the park. Sarah spoke, I listened. The same story, charm, lies, rare meetings, excuses. My son doesn't know the truth. He thinks his father died in prison for financial crimes. I don't know if I should tell him everything. Does he need to? Maybe he can just see his father as someone who made mistakes. Sarah nodded. I read your book. I recognized the story. I wanted to meet someone who understands. We talked for 2 hours. 2 women, deceived by the same man. It turned out there were a few more like us. Bernard had built an entire network of fake lives, all tangled in lies. As we parted, Sarah said, "Thank you for listening. I feel lighter now. Thank you for sharing. Now the picture is complete." At home, I told Joseph about the meeting. How many lives did he ruin? He shook his head. And his own first, I added. Do you think he was unhappy? I'm sure of it. Happy people don't create so much deceit around themselves. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought of all the women Bernard had deceived, the children growing up without a father or with a ghost of one. The destroyed lives, the stolen years. But I also thought of the strength we had gained. Each of us had been through hell and come out on the other side, scarred, but unbroken. Maybe that was the point, to show us our true strength. The next morning, I started writing a new book. About women who survived betrayal and found themselves. A composite of all of us, Bernard Fischler's deceived wives. The work took a year. I contacted Sarah, and through her, the other women. Not all wanted to talk, but some shared their stories. Each unique, yet all similar, lies, betrayal, pain, and rebirth. The book was published under the title The Wives of One Husband. Critics praised its psychological depth, readers loved its honesty. I never revealed it was based on real events, but people could feel it. At the book launch, Michelle unexpectedly appeared. Older now, but dignified. I read your book, she said. Thank you for not demonizing Bernard. You showed him as human, even if broken. He was your son. Whatever he did, I often wonder, what if I hadn't adopted him? Maybe another family would have done better. Or worse. You gave him a chance. What he did with it, that was his choice. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm glad you're happy. Bernard, he loved you in his own way. You were his conscience, which he chose to ignore. Yes, that was his choice. After the launch, a young woman approached me. My name is Anna. I'm Megan's daughter, the one who gave you the note. I smiled. How's your mother? She's well. She asked me to say hello. And thank you. You inspired her to be brave. Because of you, she taught me not to stay silent when I see injustice. The circle had closed. Megan's act didn't just change my life, it influenced the next generation. 10 years had passed since I received that note. 10 years of a new life. I had become a successful writer, a happy wife, a respected person. From the ashes of the past grew my present. Sometimes journalists ask where I get my stories. I tell them, from life. They laugh, thinking I'm joking. But it's true. Life writes plots no author could invent. Joseph and I had been together for 8 years. Calm, happy years. No consuming passion, but warmth that comforts. We never had children. Too late, and it didn't matter. We had each other, and that was enough. My mother had been living with us for the past 2 years. Age and health required care. But she wasn't a burden, she was a blessing. Her wisdom, her love filled our home with a special warmth. She once said, I'm proud of you. You went through hell and stayed kind. That's because of how you raised me. No, it's your choice. You could have become bitter, closed off. You chose love. Lily visited regularly. Our friendship only grew stronger with time. We were already grandmothers, she truly, with a grandson, I, godmother. Remember the dreams we had when we were young? She asked. About princes, castles, and everlasting love? I remember. And we got something completely different. Better. We got real life. Recently, I received a letter from prison, from one of those convicted in Bernard's case. Dear Rebecca, you don't know me, but I know you. I worked with your ex-husband. I want to apologize. I knew about his double life and stayed silent. If someone had told you the truth earlier, you wouldn't have lost so many years. Forgive me, if you can. I replied simply, I forgive you. Because anger and resentment are heavy burdens. I prefer to travel light. On the anniversary of Bernard's death, I always go to the cemetery. Not out of love or longing, but to remember. To remember the cost of lies, the fragility of trust, and the value of truth. This year, a woman and a teenager were standing by the grave. Barbara with her son. Rebecca, she said, surprised. Hello, Barbara. We hadn't seen each other in years. She had aged, but her face carried a sense of peace. This is Max, she introduced her son. We came to say goodbye. We're moving abroad. My husband got a job in England. Congratulations, I said. The boy looked at his father's grave with confusion. Mom says Dad was a complicated man, he said. Yes, I nodded. Very complicated. Were you his wife? I was. Long ago. Mom says Dad had several families. I looked at Barbara. She nodded, her eyes full of a quiet request. Yes. Your dad couldn't help it. He was searching for himself in different lives. And he never found it? Unfortunately, no. The boy thought for a moment. I won't be like him. I'll be honest. That's the right choice, I said. We stood in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. Then we parted ways, Barbara to her new life in England, and me back to my quiet haven by the ocean. At home, Joseph met me with news. The publisher called. They want to make a movie out of your first book. No, I said immediately. Why not? It's too personal. I don't want my pain to become entertainment. But you changed the names, the places. Yes. Still, it should remain a book. Those who want to read it will. Watching it on TV? No. Joseph didn't insist. He understood. That evening, we sat on the balcony, watching the sunset. The ocean was calm, and the sky was painted pink. You know, Joseph said, I'm grateful to Bernard. For what? That he was a scoundrel. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met you. I laughed. Strange gratitude. But sincere. We sat holding hands, watching the night fall. Ordinary people with an extraordinary story. But now it didn't matter. What mattered was the present. The ocean, the sunset, the warmth of the hand of the person you love. The phone rang. Unknown number. I no longer felt fear. Rebecca? This is Max Bernard and Barbara's son. We met at the cemetery today. Yes, Max. What's up? I wanted to ask. Mom doesn't want to tell all the details. But I need to know. What was my father like? A difficult question from a teen seeking the truth. Your father was talented, charismatic, but lost in his own lies. He loved you and your sister, that's for sure. But he didn't know how to love honestly. Why? Because he was deeply hurt as a child. And he never fully healed. Mom says he was a criminal. Yes. But first and foremost, he was an unhappy man. Did you forgive him? Yes. Why? Because hatred destroys the one who hates. And I want to live. The boy was silent for a moment. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Max, whatever your father did, it's not your fault and not your burden. Live your life, make your own choices. I'll try. After that conversation, I kept thinking. Bernard's children are growing up, asking questions. Someday, they'll learn the full truth. I hope it doesn't break them. That night, I dreamed of Bernard again. But now, he wasn't young, he was a child. A small, frightened girl with huge eyes. I didn't want to be bad, she said. I know, I replied. No one ever does. Did you forgive me? Yes. Why? Because forgiveness frees you. Forever. I woke up with a sense of final closure. The story was over. All the ghosts were laid to rest. All debts forgiven. That morning, a letter arrived from my publisher, an offer to write a true autobiography. Raw, unvarnished, without changes. I thought about it for a long time, then wrote back, my real story is already told in my books. Those who can read between the lines will understand. The rest don't need it. Some truths are too heavy for entertainment. Joseph approved. Your story is your strength. No need to hand it over to the world for spectacle. Instead of an autobiography, I started writing fairy tales. For Barbara's children, for Sarah's son, for all the kids whose parents weren't who they seemed. Tales about love, about truth triumphing, about how after the darkest night comes dawn. My first story was dedicated to Megan. Without her, none of this would exist, neither the pain, nor the rebirth, nor the new life. A little bird carried an important message that changed the whole kingdom. The story began. And so my real life began, sparked by a tiny note delivered by a frightened secretary. Today, 10 years later, I can say thank you. Thank you, Megan, for your courage. Thank you, Bernard, for the lesson. Thank fate for the trials. I sit in my office, looking at the ocean, writing these words. The final lines of my story about the past. There will be no more books about betrayal and pain. Only hope and renewal. Because I, Rebecca Eggert, formerly Fischler, walked the path from victim to survivor. And now my story can help others find their own way to the light. And that note? It's still in my desk. A tiny slip of paper that changed everything. Sometimes I take it out and read it. Rebecca, this is about your husband. Read it when you're home. It's important. Yes, it was important. More important than I could have imagined. That note saved my life, not from death, but from slowly dying in a gilded cage of lies. And now, with all the truth revealed, all the secrets solved, and all the wounds healed, I can finally say, I am happy. Truly, deeply, peacefully happy. My story is finished. But life goes on. And it's beautiful in its simple, honest way. The ocean murmurs outside the window. Joseph is making dinner, humming to himself. Mom dozes in the armchair, a book on her lap. An ordinary evening for an ordinary family. But I know the value of this ordinary life. I know the journey it took to reach this peace. And I am grateful. For everything. Even for the pain. Especially for the pain. Because without it, there would have been no rebirth.